going live on YouTube. So I'll probably make a ton of mistakes. Bear with me. Today's topic, and I'm going to be doing several topics on this, is undocumented illegal immigrants. Not legal immigrants, undocumented illegal immigrants. And why it's important for you, the audience, to understand why there's so many folks like myself that are Trump supporters and why we feel so strongly about illegal immigration. I'm just going to touch base on a few things. The live may go 15 to 30 minutes. It may go an hour. I'm not exactly all that sure on the time frame. It became federal law in 1986 to knowingly harbor an undocumented illegal immigrant. But since then, we've had a lot of Democrat, liberal presidents, governors, congressmen, and women blatantly disregard those federal laws and commit federal crime. Now, if me and you, the average person, committed those crimes, we would be in prison for a minimum of 10 years to a maximum of 20 years. And that's what Trump is trying to do. He's trying to remove, when he says I'm draining the swamp, what he's actually meaning, because I have to explain this in a way that folks understand. What he's trying to do is he's trying to get rid of the corruption from these congressmen and women in the Democratic Party and some of them in the Republican Party. I'm not saying the Republicans are completely innocent. There's a lot of crime on both sides, and that's what Trump is trying to do. Now, a lot of people say, okay, Trump was a convicted felon. Well, no, he's not. And even if he was, anybody remember Wyatt Earp? He was a convicted felon, but yet he was a law enforcement officer for Dodge City, Kansas, and for Tombstone, Arizona. Very famous. What did he do? Amongst a lot of things, he cheated on his wife. He stole a horse, which back in those days was considered death. But he became a law enforcement officer, a very tough one. And I think of Donald Trump as today's Wyatt Earp, to be quite honest with you. It looks like I had somebody on there a second ago. Cool. Thank you for dropping by, and thank you for the short time you were on there. Why is it important for undocumented illegal immigrants to be sent back to their country of origin? All right, I'm going to get into that. 2 people watching, 1 thumbs up. Thank you. Let's say, for example, you, my audience, you know somebody who's an undocumented illegal immigrant, and you're going to protect them from ICE and the federal government because you think you're doing them a favor, when in all reality, you're not. Those undocumented illegal immigrants that are coming over here illegally are breaking federal laws. If you get caught harboring those undocumented illegal aliens by the federal government or local law enforcement, you will go to prison, federal prison, for a minimum of 10 years. maximum prison for a minimum of 20 years. Is it really worth losing your entire life and your livelihood because you think you're protecting an undocumented illegal alien? And employers tell you this, and some of the folks from some of the reporters from CNN, or some of the people in the Democratic Congress of the House and the Senate, made of some Democrats and some crooked Republicans, have this thought: well, Americans don't want to build houses and build bridges and do road construction. Oh, yes, they do. I know a lot of Americans that have lost their livelihood and their jobs to undocumented illegal immigrants. When um, when government officials like Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, for example, say things like, well, Americans don't want to do those jobs, they're lying through their teeth. Yes, Americans would love to be able to do those jobs. You want to know why these companies would rather hire an undocumented illegal immigrant than hire somebody like you that has tons of experience in that field of work? Because they don't want to have to pay you $25, $30 an hour. They want to get out of having to pay taxes on you. They don't want to have to pay you above minimum wage for building roads and bridges and homes. They're trying to save money. And how do they do that? They hire an undocumented illegal alien. And at the same time, they're exploiting and taking advantage of that undocumented illegal alien. If that illegal immigrant, undocumented illegal immigrant, was here legally, those employers for those companies would have to pay them the $20+ an hour. But because they're here illegally, they don't have to pay them that $20+ an hour, which saves them tax dollars. And the more undocumented illegal aliens that they can hire, the more American people lose their jobs to that. It happens all over America, where you hear it in the news. I lost my job. I lost my job. I lost my job to an undocumented illegal immigrant. Now, you don't hear about a lot of it because a lot of it doesn't get reported. For whatever reason, CNN and those news outlet companies, they think they're doing everybody a justice and a favor. I've had 4 people come onto my live so far. Man, thank you. I didn't even expect to have one. Because like I said, I'm new at doing this. I'm not even sure how I can act. There's restrictions on all kinds of stuff and rules and regulations. So, I got to be careful on how I word things. And I want to be careful on how I word things to begin with, because I don't want to offend anybody. Now, unfortunately, I'm probably going to offend somebody, because there's somebody out there that says, oh, he don't know what he's talking about. I know more about policy than most people think. Policy was talked about, lived, and breathed in my family. Now, in my family, unfortunately, I'm the smartest one when it comes to policy, and I'm the youngest. You'd think my older siblings would be smarter than me when it comes to policy, but they're not. They're clueless. I was stumped for a minute there. Kind of, like I said, I'm new. I've already been doing this for 9 minutes, actually 10 minutes now. Wow. Okay, back to what I was talking about, undocumented illegal immigrants, and why it's so important for people to pay attention to what I'm trying to teach you, what I'm trying to talk about. All right, let's say, for example, you're working for a company and they hired 10 undocumented illegal immigrants. That employer does not have to pay taxes on those undocumented immigrants. They don't have to pay them minimum wage. They don't have to pay them above minimum wage. They can say, I'm going to hire you for $5 an hour. And you better not complain about it, because if you do, I'm going to get a hold of the federal government. I'm going to get a hold of ICE, and you're going to be deported back to your country of origin. Do you honestly think that employer cares a rat's rear end about that undocumented illegal immigrant? They just took advantage of them and exploited them by hiring them for $5 an hour, 4, 5, 6, $7 an hour, not paying them a minimum wage, and not even paying them for their talents. Now, I know a lot of undocumented illegal immigrants that have a lot of good talents in construction work, and they're not getting paid what they're worth because they're undocumented illegal aliens. And the employer wants to take advantage of that and exploit that. All right, let's use another example. Let's say there is, and actually this isn't really an example, this probably happens a lot. There are several undocumented illegal immigrants that are teenage girls, anywhere from the ages of 12, 13 on up, all the way up to adult woman age, 25 and up. Those women come over here illegally, and it's unfortunate they get used for sex trafficking. They get used for prostitution. So people out there, if I'm talking to somebody that doesn't agree with me and they think I don't know what I'm talking about, you need to get yourself educated. And my thing fell. It's cheap. It's from Temu. And it would be nice if I would stop tripping over it. Under under federal law, 8 USC 1324, it is a federal crime to knowingly harbor an undocumented illegal immigrant. And if you get caught doing so, you're looking at minimum of 10 to a maximum of 20 years in prison. You really want to screw your life up because you think you're protecting an undocumented illegal immigrant? Secondly, you're not helping them at all. You're actually allowing them to be, they have to live in fear of being deported. They have to live in fear of being raped and molested, especially the women and the young girls. And they get taken advantage of. I would imagine there's been a lot of situations where you got a 12, 13-year-old girl that's an undocumented illegal immigrant coming over here from another country, and a horny man seizes an opportunity and takes advantage of it. He walks over to her and he says to her, I'll give you room and board. I'll give you a roof over your head. I'll give you clothing. I'll give you food. But I want sex from you. And she has to comply, because if she doesn't, she's going to get deported. Do you think that's protecting undocumented illegal alien? Being forced into sex, being raped and molested at the age of 12, 13, 14 on up? You honestly think you're protecting undocumented illegal women and children. If you are doing those, you're part of the problem. If you are knowingly and willingly keeping your mouth zipped and not saying anything, you yourself are not only knowingly harming an undocumented illegal immigrant, you are allowing other people to exploit them and take advantage of them. These young women and girls that are coming over from the border, they're not even with their own families for the most part. A lot of people was upset at Trump because during his first term, he was separating families. I guess that's what CNN was saying. He was separating families. He was not separating families. They were doing DNA testing at the border. And the DNA tests were showing that those men and women that were with those children weren't even related to those children. They were drug dealers. They were prostitutes trying to indoctrinate other prostitutes or young girls into doing prostitution for their pimps, which is basically the drug cartels. And that's horrible. So Donald Trump in his first term was not separating families. He was separating total strangers that were most likely criminals from those kids and trying to find out who the actual parents were and why the parents allowed it to happen. And it doesn't help matters none, and doesn't help matters none. We got people like Bill Clinton in 1996 passed a bill into law that companies can hire 10 undocumented illegal immigrants. Now, the companies have taken advantage of that, and even President Obama got rid of that bill when he was in office. And the problem with that bill is employers would still take advantage of that. They would still force the undocumented immigrant to perform illegal acts or illegal acts and things illegal to keep their job. Well, you better do this or I'm going to have you deported. You better do this or I'm going to have you deported. And that's exploiting an undocumented illegal immigrant. So folks out there all peeved off because Trump is wanting to stop undocumented illegal immigration from flooding into the U.S. Well, why would you be mad at that? It's protecting Americans and it's protecting the undocumented illegal immigrant at the same time, especially if it's a young girl that's 12, 13 years old, or a woman that's a single mother. They come over here illegally, and you have people saying, okay, I'm going to hire this undocumented illegal immigrant woman, and it's a guy. Do you honestly think most men are thinking up here? I'm a guy, okay? Most men are thinking with their lower head, especially a pervert that's only thinking about sex. So, for example, undocumented illegal immigrant, young lady, 12, 13 years old, gets over here to the States, runs into a horny man. The only thing he's thinking about is Pussy. And he says to this young woman, I'll put a roof over your head. I'll take care of you. But there's also something she has to do for him. She has to perform sex for him. And if she doesn't agree to being raped and molested on a regular basis, this guy has her deported. Do you honestly think that's protecting an undocumented immigrant? That's exploiting them and they're being taken advantage of, and they're being raped multiple times by horny men. And that itself is sickening, that the liberal media like CNN would be okay with that. And the liberal Democrats, men and women in Congress, that would be okay with that. That shows me they hate humanity, period. They hate people, period. Because if they remotely cared about the undocumented illegal immigrant, they would force them to come over here legally. So they wouldn't be exploited. They wouldn't be taken advantage of. They wouldn't be getting raped and molested. I have one viewer. Thank you for listening to me. Um, I had like 4 people viewing me, and I lost them. I think I probably said something to aggravate them. Uh, Not a lot of people understand immigration, and I'm trying to explain things to them. Some people already understand. Some people, okay, I'm going to protect an undocumented immigrant regardless of what federal laws get broken. Well, is it really worth going to prison for 10 to 20 years because the person thinks they're protecting an undocumented illegal immigrant? When in all reality, they're being exploited, they're being taken advantage of, they're being raped, they're being molested by either U.S. legal citizens or drug cartels or Venezuelan gang members. And then a lot of people was angry with Trump during his first presidency because he was separating families. No, he weren't separating families. DNA testing was being done at the border, and those DNA test results found that those men and women that were with those children weren't even related to him. And then they dug deeper and found out those women were prostitutes from the drug cartels bringing children over to the U.S. to be used as sex trafficking. And, or they were just, the men themselves were part of the drug cartels bringing over fentanyl and other drugs along with exploiting those young women to prostitution. I don't think that's protecting an undocumented illegal immigrant to me. And for congressmen and women to say, well, nobody, or even the CNN reporters, nobody wants to build, none of the Americans want to build houses and bridges. Oh, yes, they do. The average American would love to get hired to do road construction, bridge construction, or building homes. But they're losing their jobs to undocumented illegal immigrants because your employer don't care. The employers that do that, they don't care about you and they don't care about them. Let's say, for example, and it's not an example, I've seen it happen. There's a company in Wichita, Kansas. I can't say who it is because lawsuits and that sort of thing. They hired, and this was during the Biden administration, they hired 5 undocumented illegal immigrants because of Biden's screwed up open border policy. And they fired 5 construction workers that were making 20 plus an hour. And they hired those undocumented immigrants at half of that. That employer did not have to pay taxes anymore on those 5 employees because he canned them. And he didn't have to pay taxes on the undocumented illegal immigrants. And he was only paying them $9-10 an hour. So they were being exploited and taken advantage of right then and there when they were being hired at $10 an hour. And they're not paying any taxes on them. They got paid under the table, which is considered illegal. Yes, they have a job, but for the work that they were doing, if they were here legally, they'd be getting paid $20, $30 an hour easy with the work that they were doing. The employer was taking advantage of them. That's what I'm trying to get, that's what Trump's trying to get folks to understand. These employers out here, these people out here that are hiring undocumented illegal immigrants, they don't give a rat's rear end about those illegal immigrants. They're trying to save money on taxes, save money on labor. And they'll exploit and take advantage of them if they have to do so. Or what about a young lady? I keep using this as an example because I would imagine it happens a lot. There's a young lady that's an undocumented illegal immigrant. She runs into a guy and she gets hired to clean his house, hired to clean his business for what, $4 or $5 an hour. And then she has to perform sex for him. She has to be raped in order to stay in the country. That's exploiting and then taking advantage of an illegal immigrant. So it astounds me how I can't get people to understand that and wrap that around their head. I've watched other people's channels on YouTube, and I've seen how they trash talk Donald Trump. And I'm thinking to myself, what is wrong with you people? I mean, even if you dislike the guy, surely you understand the policies are to protect Americans and protect the undocumented illegal immigrant from being exploited, from being used for sex trafficking. Oh my gosh, look at it from that point of view. And, Donald Trump didn't have to run for president a second time. Yeah, he's a convicted felon. He has 36, da 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 da. Whoop-dee-doo. The only reason they started bringing that stuff on is because they didn't want him to get reelected. Why did, here's a question, and I'll answer it for you if you don't already know. Why did Joe Biden have an open border policy? Is it because he cares about the undocumented immigrants? He can care less if those women and children are being raped and murdered and exploited. He can care less if those men are working hard labor jobs for $4 or $5 an hour. He could care less. He allowed so many people into this country because he was hoping that a law would pass, and actually it did pass in California, that you don't have to have a driver's license or Social Security to vote. And his hopes were that they'll vote Democrat and we'll never have an opportunity to have law and order in this country ever again because the Democrats and the liberals would slowly take your rights away from you. Like with this woke garbage that's taking place and this gender ideology garbage. I mean, if you want to be a light bulb and stick a light bulb up your keister, by all means, do what you want to do, but don't jam that down somebody else's throat. There's only two genders, male and female. If you look down and you got this little thing wiggling around, that's a penis. If you look down and you got this slit between your legs, that's called a vagina. That means you're a woman. And I'm going to talk about a lot of things with illegal immigrants. And I honestly don't know why an undocumented illegal immigrant would come over here illegally knowing full well they're being exploited and taken advantage of by the people that's getting them over here, which is the drug cartels and the pimps, and then being exploited and taken advantage of by Americans that think they're doing them a favor or try to convince them they're doing them a favor when all reality they know they're not doing them a favor. They're ripping them off. I mean, you figure I seen an undocumented illegal immigrant about 3 years ago in Wichita, Kansas, that was running a backhoe. Okay, I know for a fact if that undocumented illegal immigrant was legal, he'd be getting paid an easy $25, $30 an hour to run that same backhoe. But that employer exploited him as much as he can exploit him, took advantage of him as much as he could take advantage of him, and only paid him, I think, $10 an hour, I think it was, to run that backhoe. And that's protecting undocumented immigrants? How? He just got ripped off, severely ripped off. I mean, his wages should have been 20, 40, 60, 80, 100. $100 for 5 hours worth of work. And he only got paid, I think, $45, $50 worth of work. That employer ripped him off. That employer saved money. Employer saved money by not having to pay taxes on him. And that employer saved money by not having to pay him the full amount of what he was worth. Yeah, the undocumented guy got $50, but anybody knows $50 can't even get you through the day here in America. $50 could probably get you through the day in somewhere like China or the Philippines, but it can't get you through the day nowhere in America. And he just made $50 off a job that should have probably paid him $100. That's taking advantage. That's exploiting. Think about all these young, talented, undocumented young women that are coming over here and getting raped multiple times by drug cartels, by pimps, by horny men. It just astounds me how uneducated people choose to be. There will be more lives to come on undocumented illegal immigration, and I'll be touching base on tariffs too. The media and the social media like CNN and congressmen like Chuck Schumer and congresswomen like Nancy Pelosi are going to try to frighten you that tariffs are bad, but we get tariffed from other countries 100% plus. It's time for this country to start tariffing them back. And over time, yes, prices will rise. That's a no-brainer if you understand how business works. And in other live broadcasts, I will touch base on how tariffs work and how it fluctuates the cost of living up and down. But over time, the tariffs will cause prices to go down. If anybody out there, whether you, especially the people that hate Trump, most of them don't even know why they hate him. They just hate him because CNN hates him. Want to know why CNN hates him? Because they're losing money. Want to know why the congressmen and women that are Democrats hate him? Because he's exposing their wickedness and the laws that they're breaking. Chuck Schumer can care less about you at all. He cares about his pocketbook. Same thing with Nancy Pelosi. Like the State of the Union address the other night, about women's rights. The Lincoln Riley Act. They couldn't even stand for that. This young lady got beat to where she wasn't even recognizable, got raped multiple times. And these congressmen and women claim they care. I didn't see it at all. The only thing I saw in their eyes is pure hatred for Donald Trump. They can care less about the American people. And I'm going to probably do maybe three or four more live broadcasts on illegal immigration and why it's very important to be aware of it. You know somebody that's an undocumented immigrant, you need to do the right thing and turn them in and quit thinking you're protecting them, because you're not. You're breaking federal laws, which will land you in prison if you're not careful. And they're being exploited and taken advantage of by the drug cartels and by other Americans. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and end my live for today. To those who came to my live, I would have appreciated, I was hoping for some comments, but didn't get that. My audience is low, but I do have an audience. For the people that was on my live and that joined me, I want to thank you for joining me. I want to thank you for allowing me to talk and not trash talking me and not being a hater. I look forward to going live next Saturday. I'm sorry, next Sunday, not next Saturday. I look forward to going live next Saturday, and I'm going to have some more conversations about undocumented illegal immigration. And I might have some conversations about tariffs. I might just bounce all over the place. I'm that way anyway. I can't stay on one subject too long anyway. I bounce around. And I hope I don't confuse no one by doing so. And I would love to hear from you guys, good comments and bad comments. I'll reply to them all. I don't hate nobody. I love all of you, even the liberals that don't, for whatever reason, want to use common sense. I love y'alls out there. Take cares. Hope to see you next Sunday when I go live. Till then, have a blessed Sunday. And if you're somewhere where it's warm, like where I'm at up in Oklahoma, go out and enjoy the weather. Get out of the house. Go to the park. Have a picnic. Go eat some pizza. I wish it was this nice yesterday when we had pizza. Take care. Love you guys. Thank you. Are you sure you want to stop streaming?